I was deeply impressed and moved by the stories in this collection. I recognized a Texas writer, and I wanted to emulate the passion that Dagoberto Gilb infuses in all of his writing. And when I had the opportunity to help Dr. Clough start this reading series, one of the first writers on the list to bring in with Dagoberto Gilb. It's a real pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Dagoberto Gilb.
Anyway, I'm really happy and grateful to be here. I was here a couple years ago. I don't know if there's a video here. Anyway, I like this town. I have two of my closest friends have a history here. One was the first Macintosh store ever was my friend, who's now the head of the Latino affairs in Iowa. Armando de Arreal. I hope nobody here is the next girlfriend. I don't blame you. I'm on your side. It's confusing. I don't know how much time I have, but it's interesting for me to come here to this event with the American Book Review, because in a certain respect, the sort of strange combination of these two almost completely disparate worlds are here, and it's odd that it's in Victoria, Texas. It's odd to me. The American Book Review, when I first started reading, and I wasn't very young, I was already out of school, out of my education period, and I wanted to start reading fiction. I didn't like a lot of what people considered likable. I didn't really, as a undergraduate, all the smart kids are in English. And my first English class, I was one of these high school students who, and I probably shouldn't admit it, but I'll tell the truth, I was the guy in the corner that would sleep. And, or the teacher, or the only writing I would do would be writing a note to my girlfriend, and then you'd fold it up, like as well as you could. She'd fold it up perfectly. I would fold it up less perfectly. And I was that guy that either would be put in the farthest corner or right next to the teacher so she couldn't stand it, and then she put me back in the corner. And in a different time, a different era, I would have been one of these guys that had flunked several times. But in some way I managed, they just didn't, they would like to pass people through. So the first English class I took at a junior college in Los Angeles, and I was getting an F. I couldn't believe I was getting an F. But I got an F. And then I was like disturbed because I wasn't going to be a writer, by the way. I didn't think about writing. I never probably read anything until I was much older. And I decided I had to pass the class, so I lived in Los Angeles at the time, and I don't know if you guys know where Compton is, but I went to a Compton junior college at night. So, and it's night, so there are mostly adults that were working, and I figured I'd look better, and I did. I got a B. I remember I was going to get an F in this one teacher's class in high school, and she just didn't like me. She'd only collect homework. I never took homework home. I never did homework, and ever. And so, but if we were allowed to do it in class, teachers have to kill time. If we were allowed to do it in class, I could do it, and I would turn it in. But if we weren't, I didn't have it. And so that's when she would collect, and she was making sure that I was going to get an F in the class. And but she was one of these funny ladies, and she kept a picture of her daughter. Why am I telling this story in public? She kept a picture of her daughter. And I'd always go, oh, is that your daughter? And that guaranteed that I would get an F. I had to go to the counselor and say I needed to get transferred out because the teacher was insistent on flunking me, and so she ended up giving me a D. Where was this all going? So by the time I'm in an undergraduate and studying philosophy, and I'm good in philosophy because even if you've ever tried to read Immanuel debutante who's horrible to read, you have to read it really slow, even though it's like 10,000 pages per book. But you don't read 10,000 pages. You read like 3 pages, and then they have like 3 weeks on that 3 pages. And I was perfect for that stuff. And so I did kind of good in that. But I was so scared of my English experiences that even when you, as an upper division philosophy major, you had to take an upper division English class at some point. But I petitioned to not take that, so I could take, I think it was literature and philosophy. So it was like all philosophy reading again. So that by the time I'm through with this and I'm in graduate school, now I'm studying religion, I was still pretty terrified. And they asked me to, but I was so terrified in such an interesting way that at the University of California, I'm sorry I'm going off on this non-subject, I guess. Anyway, the University of California, they have at least 40% of the students have to take a specific remedial English class that the University of California didn't like to admit that their entrants would have to take it. Like, whereas most of the undergraduate classes you take have a number, this one had a letter, and it was called Subject A. And you had to pay extra to take the class, and you would not get credit for your bachelor's degree to take Subject A. You were like, you took Subject A. You paid, had a different department, a different floor, and everything. Well, I became a tutor in Subject A because, the vast majority of students in Subject A were either Latino or Black or Native American, and all of which were possibly in jail, which is the other thing. So I became the featured tutor. And in that class, by this time I'm a second-year graduate student, and I took my first English class in a university was Subject A. And I remember there was my first, what now is called creative writing class, because I actually didn't know what periods were for. I knew you put them in places, in commas. I think you get a comma right here. And then when I learned, my life completely altered. I couldn't believe that there were reasons for those commas and reasons for periods. I used to get those comments on, I was very hardworking, and I'd get B's, B pluses, and never get an A. If I got an A, I'd be an A minus. Thank you. You don't know where commas go, man. What's pregnant, man? What is pregnant? So, now I'm going to read a poem this is out of this book that I edited. It's called Hecho en Texas. And this poem is called Stupid America. Stupid America, see that Chicano with a big knife in his steady hand? He doesn't want to knife you. He wants to sit on a bench and carve Christ figures, but you won't let him. Stupid America, hear that Chicano shouting curses on the street? He is a poet without paper and pencil. And since he cannot write, he will explode. Stupid America, remember that Chicanito flunking math and English? It is the Picasso of your western states. But he will die with 1,000 masterpieces hanging only from his mind. That was by a poet named Lalo Delgado from El Paso, Texas. He wrote that in the early 70s. And it's sort of interesting that we are at a stage in this book. This book is about what used to be Stupid America. But you know what it is? You know how when you get a cold and you're about to sneeze and you go, and then for that little bit of time you go into a different world and you don't know where you are? And then you sneeze, and then you're back. Oh, well, that's what writing is like. You'll be at a job, and suddenly you like have to do that sneezing. But it goes on through periods of time, and you go, I want to write a story. And you're getting paid like $15 or $25 an hour. You're like, I want to write a story. And then somebody says you're fired. And you go, oh. And then you go write that story that makes you work on for 2 or 3 months and you get $100. That's what writing is like.